Hey everyone, Alex here from Japanese Masters, and today we're going to go over Minna no Nihongo, Lesson 3, Part 4, that is Noun 1, no Noun 2. Okay, let's go and dive right on into this. Okay, the first thing you should notice if you've been following my series is that we've already covered Noun 1, no Noun 2. We've actually covered it twice before in both Lessons 1 and Lesson 2. So today, we're going to cover yet another function of Noun 1, no Noun 2. Now you might be wondering, why are we covering so many of these different uses of it? Well, that's because Noun 1, no Noun 2, the structure in itself, is used all the time in Japan. It's one of those phrases, every language has them. One of those phrases that just has so many meanings, that's collected even more meanings over the years, and it's just become something that you can hear in almost every sentence in Japanese. So Noun 1, no Noun 2 has a lot of different functions. Today, we're not going to go over one of the more broad uses, like a possessive or something like that. We're going to go over one of the very specific uses. And specifically, that is going to be when you want to say that Noun 2 is made in Noun 1 or Noun 2 is made by Noun 1. As you can see, that is our English translation for the day of this. Now, when you're saying is made in Noun 1, that's usually referring to like a country. So like it's made in Japan, it's made in Germany, made in the USA, something like that. And when you're saying it's made by Noun 1, you're going to be usually referring to the company that makes it. Samsung, Ford, Toyota, something like that. Let's go ahead and break this down, and hopefully it'll make a little more sense. So, Noun 1. Noun 1 is going to specify the company or the place that made the product. So, for example, Samsung or Japan, a place or a company. Now, you might be wondering here why exactly this structure means something completely different than we normally would think of it. Well, if we were to translate this directly to English, remember Noun 1, no Noun 2 usually has something similar to the apostrophe S in English. So when you're saying this, you're basically saying like it's Japan's car or it's Ford's car if you're talking about the Ford Motor Company. In Japanese, that makes perfect sense because you are giving possession of that object to the company. And even in English, it makes grammatical sense. Like, it's Japan's car. They are the ones who made it, so it's their car. However, in English, that sounds weird. We don't use that. We say literally the car was made in Japan or the car was made by Toyota or something like that. Using the possessive kind of personifies the company or the place, so it makes it seem like Japan is a person or Ford Motor Company is a person. And that in English sounds weird, but in Japan and Japanese, that's perfectly fine. So these two are actually very linked together, even though it doesn't really seem so on the surface. Okay, let's go ahead and continue. So Noun 2 is going to specify the product that was made. So, for example, that is going to be basically every noun. You can say table, car, window, basically anything that can be made somewhere or made in somewhere. And it's going to basically be most to almost all nouns. And then, of course, we have our no, which we've already covered before and multiple times. It's going to be our connected particle. It's going to bring these two together. And in some instances, it can also nominalize verbs, but not in this structure. Okay, let's go ahead and go on to a couple of example sentences. The first one is, this is a Japanese car, or a car made in Japan, would be the actual translation directly that kind of fits our structure better. The one that we did at the very beginning, the translation. So that would be, これは日本の車です. Now, the first thing you should notice is, of course, like I said, our noun 1 is going to specify the place, so Nihon. And then the noun 2 is going to be the object, the actual product, which is the car. In English, we would just say Japanese car. That's kind of how we would do the apostrophe S kind of thing for our language. However, in Japan, you do the Nihon no kuruma because you are connecting two nouns. Another little side note that I just kind of want to go over really quickly is if you notice that here is Nihon, you will also hear sometimes people say Nippon, which is the same kanji. It means Japan, has the exact same meaning. Some people ask, which way is the correct way to say it? Nihon or Nippon? Well, actually there is no correct way to say it. Both are 100% correct. I actually heard from a friend that I'm not sure how exactly true it is, but I've heard that the Japanese government actually refuses to take a side on whether it's Nippon or Nihon. So both are considered correct as of now. Usually it's by region. We'll call it either Nippon or Nihon. I don't know the exact regions or who calls it what, but just know that you can say both. You'll see both written, you'll see both spoken. And you can use both, and they're completely interchangeable in every single way. Okay, moving on. Let's go ahead and go on to our second example sentence. The second example sentence is, I have a Samsung cell phone, or I have a cell phone made by Samsung. That would be, boku wa Samsung no keitai ga arimasu. Now, the first thing that I want to go over really quickly is just Samsung. That is just the Japanese romanization of the word Samsung. It's, Japanese always take the foreign loan words and make it into sounds that they can easily pronounce, and this is just an example of that. So Samsung becomes Samsung. Next, if you've ever learned Keitai or seen this, you'll probably have seen it Keitai Denwa, which means cellular phone or mobile phone. However, most people in Japan will not say Keitai Denwa. It's too long of a word. They'll just shorten it to your Keitai. That's what I use all the time in Japan. I would never say Keitai Denwa. I'd always just say my Keitai or something like that, and people know that means your cell phone. It's basically the equivalent of shortening cell phone to cell. Like, what's your cell number? Or you can say that in English to shorten it down. Okay, and then of course here, instead of a location, we have the company. So that is the company that it is made by. That's why I have the made by up here, not made in. It's not made in Samsung. That sounds kind of weird, unless you made in a Samsung factory, but that's not exactly what the structure is talking about. And then, of course, we have keitai, which I just went over, means cell phone. And then we have ga arimasu at the end here. Now, you might be wondering why this wouldn't be something like o mottemasu, which you might know as like hold or have. In this instance, they're completely interchangeable. You can use ga arimasu or o mottemasu. Both mean, do you have this object? However, if you were like physically holding the phone and someone comes up to you and says like, is that a Samsung cell phone? They would not say ga arimasu ka, because that literally means does it exist? And if you're holding it, they obviously know it exists. They're just trying to figure out what brand or something it is. So in that case, they would use omottemasu, because they would be looking directly at it. They'd be saying, are you physically holding it? But if it was nowhere in sight, they could use either one to just, ask, do you have a cell phone? And if you do, is it a Samsung? And then, of course, we have boku, which is just the personal pronoun that's usually used by men in Japan. And that's basically it for this sentence. Let's go ahead and move on to the last example. Okay, the last example is, where is the coat made? Now, the first thing that I want to go over here is the doko. So in this structure, noun 1, no, noun 2 des. You can go ahead and replace the noun 1, the location or company, with doko if you want to ask someone about that. So when you're asking this question, you're literally saying like, where is this coat made? Which is exactly the English translation up here. So the doko is signifying where. Like in English, we have several different ways to say this. Like you say, where did you get the coat, or something like that. However, in Japanese, you just always use doko no koto or doko no something something. And this can mean, with this question, you can be asking either the exact location, like Japan, or you can actually be asking the company. It's just kind of you have to use context to figure out which one you are using. So the sentence is, それはどこのことですか? Now, what that means is that if you want to do a reply, you could either say Nihon no koto, or you could say something like American Eagle no koto. Both are correct responses to this question. So you could either say where the coat was made, so it's made in Japan. You might do that if someone asks you where you got that shirt. You could be like Nihon no shatsu, if it's like, I don't know, like Uniqlo or whatever the popular brands are in Japan. Or you could say it's a Uniqlo no shatsu. It's, a Uniqlo shirt. So the main point of this example sentence is basically that you can replace noun 1 with doko if you want to ask a question. Other than that, that is the end of today's lesson. I hope you found it useful. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments below. I'd be happy to answer them. Until next lesson, guys, keep studying Japanese. All right, everyone. See ya.